There is a man we've got to know. He is more important than Stalin or Lenin for understanding Putin's new civilizational turn against the West, what Russia will do next, what history will give us next. This man is Tsar Alexander III, father of Tsar Nicholas II, who lost Russia to revolution in 1917. Alexander III became Putin's hero around 2015. Here is Putin unveiling a statue and saying platitudes about his new hero.
Он любил Россию, жил ею, стремился сделать все для ее поступательного и уверенного развития, для защиты интересов и укрепления российской державы в Европе и в мире.
And here is Tsar Alexander III himself speaking in 1891. Unlike Putin, Alexander III was a very lovable man outside politics. Who was Tsar Alex III, really? He was a solid Russian muzhik, despite having very little Russian blood. He was huge, 1 meter 93, 6'4", a functioning alcoholic with a flask of French cognac hidden in his boot. He was unself-conscious, gregarious, a family man, a loving dad. You just wanted to give him a bear hug. But in 1888, his train derailed. The royal family was in a dining car and the roof collapsed, and Alex held it on his shoulders, sustaining a blunt trauma to the kidney that 6 years later killed him at the age of 49. Alexander III stepped onto a throne bathed in the blood of his father. His father, Alexander II, was assassinated by a terrorist group called People's Will in March 1881. Alexander III saw his father with his stomach blown open, with his leg blown apart. This is Putin's worst nightmare. Putin talks about what happened to Gaddafi, what happened to Saddam.
Саддам Хусейн тоже так думал.
And when Putin's unveiling statues to Alex III, he is visualizing what Alex saw happen to his father. Putin is an uncultured historian. He doesn't have an intellectual bone in his body, so we've got to look beyond Putin's fake image of Alexander III to what Alexander III really did, because the mistakes Alex III made are being repeated by Putin. The only difference is that now we've got a 19th century Russian Tsar with nuclear weapons. Alexander III went for hardcore Russification. He took away the rights of minorities, including Ukrainians, and we're going to talk about that. Alex III pushed Russia to being a police state. The secret police grew, and even Russians living in Europe who were critical of the regime were now being followed by agents, which of course reminds us of something.
Работаете в ГРУ?
А вы работаете в ГРУ?
Я нет, а вы?
Я нет.
Alex III hit the educated class hard and confiscated the independence of the universities. And we say this just as the FSB are being inserted into university bureaucracies in Russia in 2022. Alex III didn't start a war, but he had a visceral hatred for Germany and for Bismarck. Even after Bismarck retired, when Bismarck's name came up, Alex III would write in the margins, "bloody bastard." And he allied Russia with France, altering the European alliance structure and thereby setting the foundations for Russia to disastrously enter World War I. out of these stories, we're going to pick the Russification against Ukrainians. Other peoples in the empire got it too, but we're going to talk about what happened with Ukrainians. 1881, a ban on teaching in public schools and making church sermons in Ukrainian. 1884, a ban on theatrical performances in the Ukrainian provinces. 1888, a ban on Ukrainian in all official institutions and a ban on baptizing kids with Ukrainian names. 1892, a ban on translating books into Ukrainian. And 1895, a few months after Alex's death, a ban on publishing children's books in Ukrainian. There's a story, an anecdote from this period that stretches the truth but poignantly illustrates the absurdity of these restrictions. And it goes like this. You could get on a train from Warsaw to Moscow, and as the train went through Polish territory, you're allowed to speak Ukrainian. As the train crossed into Little Russian, Ukrainian territory, then Ukrainian would be banned and speaking it on the train would be a criminal offense. And as the train crossed into Russian territory proper, you could again speak Ukrainian. This isn't quite true, but it points at the absurdity and cruelty of banning a language, banning a culture on the territory in which people with this language and this culture are trying to make a life. There is something this teaches us. It teaches us that Russian history repeats itself, that what we are seeing now is not new. It's also teaching us that history generally repeats itself. There is no triumph of a global liberal order that we can truthfully expect. Tyranny, mystical visions will continue to sustain societies and catalyze wars. How far Russia will remain on this path, how far Russia continues to rattle its nuclear button and threaten the world, depends on how Russia deals with its age-old identity crisis. To learn more about that, watch this video next.